So today, hopefully a short video, we're going to be talking about the CSS Box Model. Now, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to do it visually. Like, if you notice, I like to do things visually because I think when you see it happening, then the concepts begin to make more sense. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about Box Model just in summary, and then I'm going to talk about block level elements versus inline elements. Okay. Now, when it comes to the elements, some elements are natively block level and natively inline, and we're going to see that. But you can also make any element block level or inline through your CSS, and we're going to see that as well. Okay. All right. So over here, I have coded a box. Okay. Now this box, it's box number 1. I hope you can see it here. It's box number 1, and it has an orange background, and it has a border. I made the border thick on purpose so you can see it clearly. It has a black border around it. Okay. Now the box model describes how the box around an element behaves. Okay, how it behaves, how it positions itself, and how it positions other elements around it. Okay, that's like the best definition I can give of the box model. It's describing this box that is around every element on the page. The box may be visible or invisible, but it's still there, and it dictates how that element is positioned or arranged on the page. Okay, so let's go into practical and you'll see what I mean. So every element has the box model has certain properties that is applied to every element. Okay, so you have the content, which in this case is my box. Okay, you have the content. The content is this box 1 here. Okay, that's my content. Now, around the content, between the content and the border of the element, okay, so the element is this div element right here. Okay, this div, that's the element. Okay, the content is the box 1. Now, in between the content and the border of the element is your padding. Okay, and I'm going to show you what that padding is. So with box 1, I'm going to change the padding. Okay, and I'm going to make it big. I'm going to make it like, let's make it 50 pixels. You see? You see what changed? Okay, so now the box is bigger. The div element is bigger. And you see the box 1 is in the center, but now you have all this space. I wish I could draw on the screen. You have this space. You see where my mouse is moving, okay? This is your top padding, okay? It's now 50 pixels. This is your right padding. It's 50. This is your bottom padding. You see, it's the space between the content and the border, the black border. And then you have your left padding. Let me change it. Let me make the top and bottom padding small and the left and right large. Okay, so we're going to change this to 5 pixels, and then the left and right, we're going to make 75 pixels. You see how the padding changed. So now you see the space between the box 1 and the border is now really small because I made it only 5 pixels. But now the right and the left border are 75. So the right and the left padding are 75. So that's the padding. The padding is the space between the content and the border. Okay? So let's make it 75 all around like before. Okay, so that is padding. And now you have the border. The border is obvious. It's this black line. I just made it thick and I made it black so you can see it. Okay, so you have your border. Now the margin is the space around the border. Okay, the padding is the space inside the border between the border and the content. We have already seen that. The margin is the space outside the border. Okay, so I'm going to show you that as well, and I'm going to make it big. Okay, so I'm going to give it a margin of 150 pixels. You see how the box shifted? The reason why it shifted is because the margin, this space here between the border and the edge of the page, I don't know if I can show you. Let me put an edge around the page so that it's more visual. Let me say border. Let me make it thick. Let me make it 20 pixels, solid, and black. Okay, so I have given our body, okay, the body, that's the document, the body of the document. I've also given it its border so you can see. Now let me take away that margin for now. Okay, so you see how the box, even though the padding is large, there's no margin. I didn't put any margin. That's why you see it is right next to the border of the page of the body. Okay, that's why you see it's smushed, up against the body. Okay, but when I now add the margin, you see it has shifted. Why? Because now there's a margin. There's a 150 margin at the top. There's a 150 margin at the right. There's a 150 margin at the bottom, and there's a 150 margin at the left. So that's the margin. Okay, that is box model. Just in a nutshell, in a summary, that is box model. Okay, so now let's move to talking about inline versus block level elements. Okay, so I'm going to remove the body border because I think you visualized, how the margin works. Okay, so I'm going to take that out because that is not part of what we are doing. Okay, all right, and I'm going to return box one to. I'm going to remove the margin, but let me change the padding, and actually let me add it to the general class. Okay, because now we're going to deal with different boxes. So let me add it, and let me make it better. Let me make it 20 pixels. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, so let's talk about now block level versus inline. A block level element takes up the entire width of the view, whether or not its actual width is as wide as that. Okay, a block level element takes up the entire width of the document available to it. Okay, so another way to think about this is a block level element doesn't allow any elements to be adjacent to it. Okay, so even if its width is only 150, like you see here, okay, the box width is only 150. So there's more space than 150, but a block level element takes up the entire width. It doesn't allow any other thing to stand next to it. That's a block level. Whereas an inline level only takes up the space that it needs. It takes up the width of itself. It doesn't add more. Okay, so an inline element allows other inline elements to be next to it. Okay, so you can look at it like block level elements are greedy with space. Don't stand, they are antisocial. Don't stand next to me. I want to be the only element on this line of the page. Whereas inline elements are more social. Okay, that's how I think about it. They are more social. So they allow other inline elements to appear next to them. Okay, so let's look at that visually. So right here, our box one is a block level. Now, you know what I talked about native, okay? How some tags, some HTML tags are native block and some are native inline. So div elements are always block level natively by default, unless you change it in the CSS. Okay, so divs are block level, and we're going to look at block level elements now. So I'm going to add box 2. Forgive me. Okay, so now I have added box 2. All right, you see how box 2 appears right underneath box 1. Even though we have this space here, we have all this space next to box 1, but because the div of box 1 is a block level element. It doesn't allow any elements to live there. It has taken up that entire line. Okay, it's antisocial. Don't come next to me. Okay, so now we have another block level element, and it is taking the next line. Okay, it's taking the next, it's forced underneath box 1 because box 1 is block level, box 2 is block level, forgive me. Okay, now let me show the native inline before I show how you can make any element anything. Okay, so here we have 2 block level elements. All right, so they are each taking up their own line. Don't come near me, I'm antisocial. All right, so let's see now a native inline. The span element is a native inline. Okay, all right, let me give the boxes a little margin so that we are not dealing with the overlap. Okay, okay, all right, okay. So I just gave a little margin so that they are not right, because I want to demonstrate. Now, with a span, you see box 3 is a span, it's a span element. It's the span tag in HTML. Okay. Box 3, span, is natively inline. All right. So the reason why you see it is touching box 2 is because box 2 is a block element, but inline elements don't take up, right now it is under box 2 because box 2 has taken the whole space because it's a block element, but the inline element is now directly underneath it. Box 2 is forcing box 3 to be underneath. But let's see what happens when we add box 4, which is also a span. You see that? Box 4 is right next to box 3. And it's also obeying the margin. You see there's a space. Okay? So because you have these inline elements right after a block level element, that's why they are not obeying the margin. Okay? But when you now have 2 inline next to each other, remember the inline is social. So rather than forcing box 4 underneath itself, box 3 being an inline element, native inline, because it's a span, natively inline, it has allowed box 4 to be next to it. Okay, so that's the main difference that I can describe between block level elements and inline level. Okay, so let's get rid of box 1 and 2. So let's go now to our inline. Okay, so I took away the margin. Let me put the margin back on the box. Okay, just to give them a little space. Okay, now you see how these are 2 inline elements. And so because they are inline, inline level elements, they are next to each other. Okay, they are social. They allow other elements to come around them. Okay, now let me make box 3 a block level. All right, and I believe we do that by saying display block. Okay, so I have made box 3 a block level element. Okay, and so by doing that, even though it's a span which is natively inline, I've used CSS to make it a block level. Okay, and so now you can see it forced box 4 underneath itself because now it is a block level element. It's no longer an inline. All right. Okay, I can take this away from box 3 and I can add it to box 4. And so now box 4 has taken itself onto a new line. Okay, I'm not going to explain the difference in the spacing. It's beyond, because I don't want to add too many things to this video. I just want to show you visually how the block level versus inline level works. So now because I added display block to box 4 has now made itself, okay? It has come away from being next to the green box and it has made itself on its own level, Okay, so I hope this makes sense. I hope this makes sense. If you have questions, ask me in Slack, ask me in the comments below, and I'll see you on Slack.